You're probably wondering why this weekend's fight with Israel Adesanya and Dricus Duplessis is going to be exciting. Why is that? Considering the fact Israel Adesanya is coming off of a loss, by the way, against the guy that had beaten or has been beaten by Dricus Duplessis, which is Sean Strickland. So what makes this exciting? Him coming off of a loss, Dricus already beating the guy that beat him. What makes this fight compelling? I'll tell you what it is. It's the race factor. I know a lot of people don't like to admit it, and I know it's one of those uncomfortable subjects, but the fact of the matter is, when you have a white South African fighting a black New Zealand Nigerian, you can't help but understand there's going to be controversies and drama behind that. Now, I think it's fair to say Dricus is the one guy that is really trying to alleviate himself away from this situation in terms of making it a race baiting type of promotional play. Israel Adesanya is not. He's not shy in the idea of dropping an N-bomb in front of him. Not only that, giving him historical reasons as to why he's not a real African, when Dricus Duplessis literally argues the fact that I breathe African air. I live in Africa. All that. He does everything in Africa. He does his banking in Africa, in South Africa, to be exact. And Israel Adesanya, on the other hand, well, you got to understand this. He's giving his economic prosperity, the money that he earns in the UFC, into the economic contributions of New Zealand and Australia, for that matter, because they're obviously tied in the same regions. And as you know, with Volk being his training partner, there's obvious cross-training between those two neighboring nations and that. So I'm going to tell you, for more further context, on the description below, I'm going to have all the videos that I have regarding this matter with Dricus Duplessis and Israel Adesanya. It's been a long time coming. I got a few videos in there where I do some recordings in a Santa Monica hotel. You should check that out. You should also check out the live stream that I did called South Africa History X. That's all going to be on the description below to give you full detail and context to this matter at hand regarding Dricus Duplessis and Israel Adesanya and their epic matchup that they have coming up. So now on the 3-minute mark of this video, let's talk about why this is going to be an epic fight. Obviously, I had mentioned the implications of race that comes into this, right? I know you don't want to admit that race plays a factor into interest in fights, but they do. It goes back to the days of Jack Johnson. And I don't want to go into full detailed history into this, but give you context. Jack Johnson, tell me if this sounds familiar, was a very cocky, flamboyant black gentleman, drives around in expensive cars and taunts his white opponents. Does that sound familiar? You're probably thinking in your head, well, that sounds like somebody like Floyd Mayweather comes to mind for sure in that. Maybe Mike Tyson, maybe Deontay Wilder. The reality is, it's neither of these modern eras that we're talking about, because this guy that I just mentioned to you, Jack Johnson, lived in the 19th century. So whenever he had a white opponent, they had this term called the Great White Hope. And as a result of that, it created interest because, let's be honest, right? Who was dominating the boxing scene in the 19th and 20th century? So whenever you got a guy like Tommy Morrison, Vitaly Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko, they become a commodity in the sport of boxing. And some could even argue maybe Jake Paul is in that category, depending on your taste of what you consider a professional boxer or within the conference of that debate. But either way, what you got to understand is that it is the reason why it attracts many people to wanting to watch fights. There's just no way around it. It's tribalism at its best. You look at the Olympics right now. What is the Olympics predicated on? Now, obviously, every nation is not going to have similar races of people that are, let's say, part of a country. Obviously, we live in a world now where a lot of people migrate in different parts of the world. You're going to have people of different kinds in different countries, especially in the Western Hemisphere. Still, the concept is the same, whether it's nationalism, regionalism, or ethnocentrism. It's all one and the same, right? But either way, those contrasting variations is what attracts us into being intrigued by a fight and the stories behind it. Now, I'm going to be very curious to find out how this press conference is going to go about. What is the media week going to be like when they get interviewed? Are they going to bring up anything that is resembling everything that I had just mentioned in the last 6 minutes? Well, my prediction, I don't think that Dricus Duplessis is going to play that. In fact, just like what I said earlier in the video, he's going to alleviate away from the subject. In other words, he's going to maybe play dumb. I don't know if that's the right word to call it, but call a spade what it is. It's literally ignoring the fact that Israel Adesanya is trying to race bait this whole entire fight. Izzy, on the other hand, he's a natural-born entertainer. He understands entertainment to the T. So what does that mean? That means that he is going to play up the race card, and he's going to bring up all these historical reasons, such as Nelson Mandela, the Apartheid, and everything in between that can really make this fight as intriguing and as controversial as it is. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next content, inshallah.